Hello. It's the day of the mothers.
Jazz
Happy
hands.
Mother's Day. I am being asked for a meeting password. Really? Did anyone else get asked for a meeting password?
Nope. Nope.
No.
If you follow the link in the graph, it asks you for a password.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me try a different link. I thought I used the same one. Boom, 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 boom. Copy the link. Oh, hold on. Let's try it again. Zoom link. Boom. Okay, there we go. Oop, there we go. How about now? And I'm going to change that in the schedule as well. How is everyone?
Great.
Good. It's not Mother's Day in the UK, so we feel like the Queen having two Mother's Days today.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
I bought a new hard drive, a backup drive.
Right.
She said it's easy. And I had backup drives before, and it's been 1, 2, 3,
What is that in the background?
I think Julie's talking to someone.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
It's so cool to see everyone.
Hello, folks.
Hello. Let
Hello.
me continue. Let me turn this
See,
way.
right there, I knew it. I knew
Boom.
Bo was a clone. I just saw two of them.
Hey.
I knew there
How
was
is
no way
everybody?
he could get all that done.
Hey, I'm good. I'm out walking the dogs. I'm on mobile. So
Nice.
In and out. Well, yeah, it depends. It's 9:30 here, so
I was going to say, it's
walk a
late,
little bit
Joshua.
early. Yes, it is.
No.
Okay, we're just gonna let everyone in. We're just letting people stroll in. How is everyone doing? How is this? How has this week been?
Good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tough work.
So
Took
good.
hours.
Interesting work.
Wonderful, but incredibly draining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say that. Draining is a good descriptor.
Well, if I could say anything, you should be lucky that you didn't have to do the 12 photos. For RBC 3, we had to do 12 photos. So you thought 3 was difficult. They had to do 12. And I didn't tell them not to, like, step away. You know? So they were literally, like, messaging me, like, you are so mean. It's like, what is this? I'm so mad. And I was like, you know, you don't really have to do all of it. But I wanted to show you what it feels like to feel overwhelmed. It was basically trolling. Yes.
It's
Just
2021.
trolling.
I don't think 2021. I don't think you have to do anything to show people how to get overwhelmed.
I
Just gonna
remember
let people
those
file in.
photos.
Yeah, Carol. Carol was there for it. Okay, I'm just gonna let people file in. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. All right. So today is Mother's Day in the U.S. and other countries that celebrate Mother's Day, I suppose. And you know, I sort of wanted to get a little bit of house cleaning stuff done, a little bit of discussion. I know that there's been a lot of information over this last week, and I really like this idea of stretching our cognitive abilities in finding the right words to articulate what we're going through. But before we do that, I do want to mention that we have a lot of blocks in the graph now. And so I'm sure you've all felt the I'm not sure how upset you're getting, but I'm getting pretty upset as well with how long this takes to load.
I think we're
And
breaking it.
yes, we are. Well, just to let you know, we're breaking numbers that we did in 6 weeks in half that time with
Connor's going to
RBC4.
kick you off.
Well, but I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
the more that we can stretch the abilities of what Rome can do, forces the hand to make them go, well, let's take a look at that. And so we hit, what was it, 138,000 blocks of text in the RBC4 graphs, which basically means, according to Stefan, one of our resident astrophysicists, that's 4.6 blocks a minute. So,
Oh, we could
Yeah.
do better than that.
yeah, well, that's what I'm going to say. But over the last 3 weeks, we did 4.6 blocks of text a minute. Just makes
How
you
many
think.
books is that?
Say
How
that
many
again?
books?
How many books?
is it?
Well, you have to remember that the block contains more than just one piece of information.
It does?
Yes. So as people are filing in, I just wanted to sort of talk about that a little bit, just because I know that it is a little frustrating. If you are on the Believers plan, I believe you do have access to the beta desktop app, which does speed it up rather nicely. So, yeah, just something to consider. And so now that people are filing in, again, I wasn't expecting as many people to show up for this one because it is Mother's Day. So we've got about 84 people here. That's a good number, I feel like. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to open it up to people. Well, let me also say this. I know that some people are lagging behind. And I know that some people are catching up, and I know that some people, life is in session, and not everyone is going to have the set amount of time every day, literally every day, to work on this. So, first off, I want to just foster that idea of we're exactly where we need to be, right? And it's like when you throw a log on the fire, it's like, every time I hear someone having a breakthrough, it's almost like that crackle of like a wisp, from that fire. But it doesn't make the fire any less beautiful than what it is, And sometimes that crackle, it's like it'll surprise us. And sometimes it's over here, sometimes it's over there. And so I just want to foster this idea that, everyone is approaching this at a different moment in their life. Everyone is catching up, or everyone is current. Everyone is at a different point in all this. So just with that sort of consideration, I'd like to just open it up to allow for everyone to. I feel like this is a pretty safe place, right? Yes, it's recording, but really it's like we're here, like who's really watching this, right? And it's like, I just want people to stretch their own cognitive limits of attempting to articulate what they've been going through over these last 3 weeks, but especially this last week. Because there's been a lot of information that's been sort of given to you. And so yeah, I'm just gonna open it up. Again, let us all be a shining example of a reflection of this community. So, I'm gonna do my best. Like, I'm gonna follow George's lead where it's like, no, the discussion is just gonna happen. So basically start with your first name and where you're from, or where you're located, and then, if two of them jump at the same time, I trust that this community is a great reflection of this community. So, yield where you need to yield, step up where you need to step up, unmute yourself, you know the deal. And I just want to spend this first maybe hour or so just having a discussion, particularly on what you're learning, particularly on what you're, stretch. This is fascinating. This is interesting. I'm struggling with this. This is cool. This is different.
Let me just add one thing. Having a discussion means also not just serial speechlets, but react to each other's ideas, build on each other's ideas, contradict each other, reinforce each other, but talk to each other, not just to Bo.
Thank you.
I had a breakthrough this week, which I wrote about.
Dr. K.
because I tried Zettelkasten earlier, and there was something not working with it. There was something not right, and I just couldn't articulate, couldn't really figure out what it was. And then this week, as we were doing the exercise and processing the notes, I realized that what I've been doing was basically copying and pasting quotes straight into Zettelkasten and then going, well, what is this? It's just the storage. I'm just storing these things. And I realized this week that it's actually the process of it that makes it yours, makes it resonate, makes it memorable. That was another thing, you cut and paste and then you forget about it. It's that processing that actually brings out value. And that was huge to me because I hadn't realized until now.
Yeah, I had a similar mind blowing principle when I was watching the video from the lesson yesterday, when I see about processing their notes and stuff like that, and when I go to my fleeting notes from the day 19, I figure out that I barely writing about what I was feeling in that moment. I basically write about what I understand in that moment, about the text and not about myself. And I missed a lot of information when I was doing the lesson, right? Because why I mark this piece of text? Why I need to talk about that? And that kind of stuff was missing. And I know that we are talking about bringing our feelings to our thoughts to this, but I think I only make sense about this yesterday, and it was I'm doing all wrong until today. Oh damn it! But well, it was interesting to figure out. Learning with all of you, it was great.
So Noel from Paris. So what I want to share with you is the fact that the experience of not being so much concerned by the fact that when you start writing things, it's maybe not related, it's just about what you are feeling. And then I start to have the confidence that with the process, at the end, I will get something out of that. And I'm always, so I've been very surprised. So at the end, I say, wow, I'm very happy with that thing. And I was exhausted.
Yes.
So
yes.
that was a good feeling. It was so much interesting because in the beginning of last week, I really wanted to quit because I was feeling that I have not enough time to do this seriously. But just I paused and I came back, and I had this moment where I said, no, don't think about doing things wrong or not wrong. Just write. And then you start to see things with the right questions. Then you go beyond the questions, you try another angle, and then you start to see things that are making sense. And that was really good feeling. I was very happy for the whole day after that. Very nice.
Yeah, this is Alan from Las Vegas. I had two, I don't want to say aha moments maybe, but two kind of things that kind of popped up when you were talking, Bo, about how you're asking questions. How does this relate to something else in your Zettelkasten? And it kind of hit me when it comes to work, because normally like we get a new router or a switch and I take all these siloed notes, and I think my brain has gotten used to thinking kind of in a siloed way. But that kind of reminded me I should be asking, okay, what am I learning over here? How does it relate to something that I already know? How does it relate to something else that's already inside my Zettelkasten that I'm putting there, which was kind of big. And then I was sitting there and I was watching, Falcon and Winter Soldier this week, and somebody says something interesting, and I'm like, why don't I use this as an opportunity to practice fleeting notes? Why is what they said interesting to me? Why is what Bucky Barnes said at this point to Sam, why did it touch me? What made that interesting? And then why did this character say this? Why were they written this way? Why am I really interested in this character but not this one? So I've just started to apply it to more things, and I'm finding I'm starting to think more deeply about a lot of different things and really get to the root of why I like things or don't like things, instead of just saying, wow, that's interesting, and then taking it no further. So thank you for that.
Why I don't like things. That's interesting.
Hi, this is Patrick from Germany here, Hamburg. I had also a great realization this week is when I started processing the fleeting notes and into the permanent notes, that from, picking one sentence from the book and then going into the fleeting note phase, that I was really going deep into a totally different direction that I thought about. So, for instance, my reference note was about multitasking and the consequence of it.
Yeah.
And during the fleeting note phase, then I get into why we are doing multitasking by itself. So I went into more the origin, and when I then put this into the permanent note, I thought about myself, well, actually, no, I need to break this up into several notes. So how can I connect into I don't have a Zettelkasten yet. So that came to my mind. So, actually that is something that I would like to connect, but I don't have something to connect to it now. And so that I found really, really interesting. So how one sentence triggered me to create the net, which I don't have yet in the physical form in Rome, but is already building in my mind. So I don't know how to build it yet, but I know it is starting to build inside of me. That's something that I found really powerful.
Patrick, did you watch the videos from RBC3?
No, I think I watched maybe one, just to get a touch, but I don't go through them.
Because if we watch this back on week 6, what you just said was, I'm not gonna say what it was, but I just love how naturally it comes up, where it's like, oh well, this is the next problem.
Exactly.
But yeah, let's keep going.
Way to go, Patrick.
Thanks very much.
Hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Come on.
Hey, it's Nikki.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Nikki from the UK. I'm a bit like Patrick. I realised I've probably been taking the essence of fleeting notes or trying to capture fleeting notes for a long time, because I'm like, this is resonating with me, and it's resonating with me because of this, but I've never had anywhere to put it. And I think working through going through and getting my first 3 permanent notes was such a it just felt amazing, like an amazing achievement for me. I think the thinking and the words, and hearing what you say about you having a dialogue partner. Like, I was writing to myself, and I used my name and everything, like asking questions and writing to my future self. And I was like, oh, I had no idea that was coming, And I think, like Patrick, I'm reading another book alongside this with that other book club that is a real book club, and it's like, and they're actually talking about it's the 12 Rules of Life by Peterson, and they're talking, a lot of it is really resonating with this stuff, actually. So I'm like, I've actually started going through making fleeting notes, but not really having anywhere to put them now. So I'm like, how do I set this thing up in my own thing now? I say a real book club because, on the Thursdays group, I said it feels like I'm having an affair, and this is like the secret book club, because I've never been part of a book club before, ever, and then joined that one about 3 weeks before joining this one. So it's like buses, 2 coming at once. But I feel like I shouldn't be. But this is not a book club. That's what everyone said.
Nikki, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just because I know a little bit of your history.
Okay.
You've never really used Rome before, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, just look at this. You're like a master. This is like a master class of how to use Rome.
Is that my page? Oh my
This is your page. Yes, I'm highlighting everyone has been watching as you were speaking, by the way. I'm just highlighting it because it's like, look at this. You have the indentation structure, you have the CSS tags. You
It's just so
use,
natural.
Yeah, and you have the alias tag here. That's an advanced feature. That's an advanced primitive feature, but it's like you've got the block reference there. You know, look at this. This is phenomenal.
But it's
And this
you've
is
made
for
it
someone-
really easy to follow.
Yeah, but it's also like you're doing it. So it's bravo.
And the other thing I did this week is I went and looked at other people's. I felt brave and put but after I'd done mine and yeah, so starting to connect. Thank you.
You know, this is George. Just to make a general comment of what I'm hearing so far is, and to reflect on what I'm doing and what it's teaching me. I think what you're doing, Bo, is you're making our thinking visible. We each have our own ways of thinking. I know for me, I'm very much of an essentializer. I am often accused of oversimplifying things, which I don't think is possible, but I teach thinking in essentials. So I kind of do this I kind of take a lot of stuff and say, okay, what does that mean? I put it into a paragraph and a sentence. I do this naturally, but you're forcing me to break it down into fleeting notes and, all the other categories. And you're slowing down my thinking, which is a good thing. Letting me examine it explicitly, but I'm also very resistant to some of it. And I know where the resistance is coming from. It's when you start fooling around with I was going to use another F word, with my brain, it really, my brain screams, hey, don't push me around. Don't force me into this thing. You have your own way of doing it. It's been very successful. You've written many books. Don't screw around with me. We got a successful formula, and I can only see it being more successful. I'm intensely frustrated in that I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, hang in there and feel the pain and all that crap. But I'm intensely needing to know I think in terms of keywords, which are concepts. I think in terms of key concepts. So if you look in my personal brain for a thing like curiosity or rationality or things like that, you're going to find hundreds of references, quotes and things I've written, other people, all that. And so I want to know where do all my key words to all my key concepts, where does that fit into this whole thing?
I'm looking at Andy right now.
Hang in
Andy,
there.
yeah, I'm looking at Andy Henson. And he's got the biggest smile on his face because
Is my face giving it away, but
yeah, it is.
poker face.
What would you tell George?
Just wait. Just
Make
a
it nice.
little
Make
bit
it nice.
more.
Be polite.
Patience. Just a little bit more patience.
Oh,
That's all.
come on. That's what they've been saying to me since I was 4 years old. Come on.
Well, a few more days isn't going to make much difference, then, is it?
It's really not. It's really not.
It's the bad P word.
But just wait a little bit longer.
He told me in a very nice way where to stick my keywords.
When I think it was October, November, me and Andy Henson were jumping on a call literally like 4 or 5 times a week, just talking this out. And he's the one that coined the term, this is a simple, lightweight structure. And it's just, that's exactly what this is. It's a simple, lightweight structure, but it's also a flywheel, is what Andy would call it. It's like this spins up and bootstraps up into bigger and more complex things. But you have to get this first. And it's just, his fingerprints are all over this too. Andy Henson, bravo. I see you. Let's keep going. Who else is, go ahead.
This is Andrew from Boston. I'm kind of building off of what I heard George saying. I just think it's so interesting to watch how busy my mind is. And the thing that I'm learning about is about focus, right? Because I feel like when I'm reading, when I'm consuming information, my mind is going in all these different places. And in the past, that's been the enemy, right? I'm fighting myself because I got to stay where I am. And now I'm kind of realizing that my mind pulling in all those different directions, that's actually a resource. That's the strength of this. And now I'm kind of moving in that same direction instead of fighting myself. It's like, no, got to keep thinking about this one thing. Now I'm saying, well, no, there's some reason that I'm thinking about these other things. And so that's just really interesting to learn about focus, to stop fighting myself and let it happen, because that's where the good stuff is.
I love the way you said, I love that. Stop fighting yourself. Harnessing yourself more than fighting. I love that.
This is Andre from Vancouver. Actually, what Andrew just said really kind of shifted my view on what I was doing before. Because when I was writing, I had the parent level block, and then I'd write whatever comes to mind about that parent level block. And I'd sometimes feel like I was wandering off. And so I'd look back at the top parent level block to try to keep myself aligned to where I was going. And I was just going to say that recently I felt like I'm not getting any of those aha moments anymore. And I've tried to accept that. I was like, okay, maybe that's normal. It's fine if I don't get to an aha moment all the time. I guess it's like, I'm going to try to not fight it so much anymore. Whatever, even if it's completely, I feel like it's completely unrelated and it's going nowhere.
You know, I want, well, let me just say one thing. Let me just do one thing real quick. Just piggybacking off of what Andrew, George, and what Andre is saying here. Let me just share something. Here's a photograph. You know, this is from Building a Second Brain, from Tiago. And I just love this imagery here where it's like you have the divergence, you have the convergence. I mean, I'm sure people have seen this photograph before, right? And it's just this idea of, you know, this is really what we're looking for, isn't it? It's like, okay, let's diverge in order to converge on a more clear idea. And then what I like to do is I like to see this photograph and I go, let's see if I can do it here. What I like to do is, what happens if I do this?
Wow.
You know, and we start down here, and this is like the fleeting notes, and then we sort of abstract out, right? And then we sort of meet the literature notes in the middle, and then we sort of converge towards this sort of permanent note. And, you know, I just like this visualization of divergence and convergence. And yeah, let's keep going.
So this is Jens Christian from Switzerland. And I had the same thing. I'm in Club HDD. And my mind is all over. And the last week, I've really started to get into flow state while writing. And so even though my mind is doing all these jumps, it's in a flow kind of way. And writing the fleeting notes gives me the time and the focus to diverge in all kinds of things, but still not get lost. So that's sort of the secret superpower that we have, is that we can do all kinds of things at the same time with the new superpower of getting focused by writing. That's it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling. I've learned more in the last 3 weeks about myself also than many years of things. So the therapy part of book club is awesome as well. And just a shout out to you both, is how you structure this, how you teach. Either you have learned from the best, or you are a natural talent. The way you do all of this is amazing. So
thank you. I received that.
Yeah, can
I
I
have
add
a
to that,
question
Nikki?
for like oh, go ahead, Nikki. Sorry.
Just before, I just want to say, I was thinking today about what Bo does and how he makes us think the way he does. And I'm a teacher and I've taught many things, but I was thinking, could I do what Bo was doing? And I was like, no way. He's definitely got something that's pretty unique. Pretty special.
I don't know what it is, by the way. I really don't know what it is. I just feel like, you know what I do is I just open it up and I go, okay, well, I'm like a vessel. Something's working through me here. I don't know what it is. I can't take credit for it. Let's keep going.
Here's a question I have for like the whole group. Is it just me, or once you start thinking this way and then you have to go back to work, whether you're working in the office remotely and you have to interact with your colleagues and you have to interact with people on projects who have this like myopic way of thinking and don't want to stretch their minds, right? Is it just me, or does it become like emotionally draining? And then this gives you the recharge to then go back and have to deal with those same mindsets yet another week.
I've had so I'm a clinical doctor. I'm also an academic, and I've been having these conversations with my academic colleagues. So obviously, I found sort of writing about a month or so ago, but obviously this book club's really expanded how I'm using it. I'm starting to use it better, and I'm having these conversations with my academic colleagues saying, we're not taught to think, we're not taught to write in the meaningful way, you know, in terms of it's just like, well, write a paper or have a research question, or there's no sort of like, well, what does that mean? How do you actually do that? I said, well, you just do it. It's like, no, you don't. There are ways of teaching, and there are ways of learning how to think and ways of learning how to write, which is so powerful. And we can do a course on statistics or on how to run a randomized controlled trial, but no one is teaching us this stuff. And it's that sort of frustration, or it is exhausting, but it's also more just like this frustration. I've kind of found this whole area, and I was like, well, I don't understand. They don't even understand that it's missing, let alone how to go and find it.
Wow, that's great to hear you.
That's
This is great.
Interesting.
I've long been advocating skills over information, not instead of, but we don't learn mind skills and that's my ambition. By the time I'm ready to leave this earth, that we're actually teaching mind skills in classrooms to third graders. You know, third grade and up. I went to college to learn how to think, and I learned how to think despite college. All the way through the PhD level, I fought the way they were trying to make me think.
And I don't think it's taught it. I don't know, maybe I'm on the wrong PhD program. We have sort of, I'm not on a PhD program yet, but I'm on kind of like the track towards that. And I'm not convinced it's taught at PhD level either, in terms of genuinely sort of thinking about stuff. And it's such a shame, because it's so powerful. And you could, I've created like a little mini 5-minute thing, obviously in Rome, about sort of teaching someone. It's really just like, this is the overview, and it's so hard to try and explain. It's almost like a religious experience of like, well, I can do all this, I can think in this way, and trying to create and sort of explain the tool a bit and explain my thinking about how I got there in terms of finding Sonke's book. Oh God, you're going to read my stuff now. Finding the book and how to take smart notes and sort of stuff. Then finding Rome, which was really powerful in terms of how it implements it. And yeah, no, it's amazing. But I'm being put off by my stuff on my screen, on the screen.
Well, you know what just popped into my head? I had an aha moment. I can tell you exactly what it's like, at least from my perspective. If anybody's seen the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, right? The final chess game where Josh Waitzkin is sitting across from him, and he's like, he sticks out his hand, telling him that the match is over. And he's like, no, the match isn't over. But Josh was so far ahead, he's like, the other kid couldn't even see it. He didn't even know the match was over. He was that far ahead. And it seems like in your thinking now, when you're dealing with people, you're thinking about so many different things. They're just not on the same page.
Exactly.
So I think like what resonates for me there is just the idea that we're really shifting paradigms. And I think paradigm as a word is just so overused now. But I was just incredibly mindful as I was writing, like what I was still confused about as it relates to literature notes and reference notes. And most of my questions are about how this like incoherent scaffolding and image I have in my mind of the way I should be reading, the way I should be taking notes is incompatible with what I'm learning, like through everything that Bo is teaching. And it's almost like if I can just fully trust what Bo is offering, then all of my questions about, you know, how many reference notes should I take, how many fleeting notes should I take, kind of go away. Because all of those questions are in relation to an old paradigm that I currently hold that no longer serves me.
Can I just say? Well, let me just say one thing. I don't want like this just to be a praise session. What I'd like to just say is that no, this is really just maximizing the technology that is available to us. You know, it's like the simple lightweight structure is Zettelkasten. The technology is the granularity of the block in Rome. So it's really just putting those two things together. So it's like, it's even outside of me. You know, this is so much larger than me. You know what I mean? So it's just, that's what I would say is that, no, what you've done is you've stumbled upon a book club that happens to be learning together about how can we use this simple lightweight structure with the technology that is available to us now.
You know what we're doing? We're ethically cheating. You know, I feel like I'm cheating. Like these poor people around me don't have this tool that I have, and I can outthink them. I can run circles around them, not because I'm smarter, but I got this tool. You know, they're on a bicycle, I'm on a rocket ship.
Yes, please.
I'm thinking that like we've got a shared graph, and I'm thinking when I start my master's in September, how many people can I get on one shared graph to try and help us learn together? So cheat on the cheating of the cheating, George.
Very meta, very appropriate. Can we hear from people that haven't spoken up?
This is Christian from Chicago. I'll jump in because I think it is not just the tool though, right? It's us using the tool and then unlocking in us things that we didn't know were inside of us.
Yep.
It's like it's almost like there's this coaching level of this whole process that takes us deeper and unveils things that we didn't know existed. And you know, that's what the writing process does. That's what the prompt does. So all of a sudden you're beyond what you thought was possible. Like we went to the edge, we jumped over the edge, we caught ourselves, we're still going. And it's like we don't even know where the end is yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave a Brian Eno reference in the chat. It's like this oblique strategies where you're coming at it from all these different angles that you didn't even know existed, and that's what creates that differentiation.
Yeah, and this is Shimon from now Maine. It's definitely have been an amazing journey of like self-discovery through this shared graph and learning from others. And I could see 108 people, but in the last reading book reading sessions were only 20 or 30, and I really encourage whoever didn't make it yet, and if you're busy, it's okay, but if you can, it's a huge gift to sort of attend these sessions. And we really went really deep, and like the way to connect to others and just like have this ability to connect these thoughts and these feelings. And it's not only like something that's like bubbling up from the bottom for a person, it's also within a group, which has been one of those really amazing moments that we were able to create here. And I do want to ask a question, which is I would really like if somebody can explain to me, like a 10-year-old, what is a permanent note, because I didn't fully capture the permanent note idea. I did do the exercise, but sort of I felt like it was brushed over. I didn't fully get it yet, and I get to, maybe there's a week ahead of us to do permanent notes. But I'm just I don't know. If you could teach me, that would be great.
Let me just stop that right now, because there's a lot of people that haven't caught up yet, and I don't want to spoil that moment either, and we have a whole week to go through it. If after next week you're still confused, then I'll spend 4 hours walking it through you.
Bo, would you say
4 minutes?
Something similar if someone had questions about the literature notes? Hi, this is Isaiah from...
Oh, literature notes is different. No, literature notes are fine. It's just permanent notes, because we haven't really touched upon it.
Because I feel, this is to the group, I think I'm steady on fleeting notes, capturing and processing those, but then rolling up into the literature notes, I think I have a surface level understanding of it, if I'm being honest. You know, I understand that I'm serving as a translator with the author, but how do I know I'm being true to the author, if that makes sense, while still including my own sense making from what the author has shared. I think of Michael, is that his name? He may be on the Zoom. Michael Ashcroft, Ashorf. He tweeted something great. And if he's here, I would love to have him kind of share more about that, because I feel like he touched on some of those pain points I had about literature notes, about, you pull something out and it's lost its context, but you add your own context to it.
But Isaiah, you haven't done day 20 or 21 yet, right?
Right. I just finished day 19. Yeah.
Okay.
So you think I'll learn more?
Well, no. This is what it is, right? It's scary to like do it without knowing what you're gonna do yet or how to do it yet, and I kind of want to instill that in you to have the courage to make a mistake, maybe.
Sure,
but the only way to do that is, is do day 20, which will give you the confidence, the self-confidence, and then 21 is where you jump out of the nest. That's what I would suggest. Instead of seeking out the answer, because you're right there. I mean, I see all your other work, and you're literally right there.
You understand how to process.
Yeah. Colby, let me check yours as well. Well, let me ask a question to the group. There's a, I forget who was talking about. I think it was Shimon. Just talking about like feelings. And that's like the big pushback that I get with all this is like people think this is a feeling emotional thing. It's not a Zettelkasten. It's just talking about your emotions. And so for people that have sort of experienced more, what's the why would people say that? And then same thing, Colby. Like you've got to once you get to day 21, yeah.
I was just gonna quickly say that if you understand how to process your fleeting notes, the way I look at it, your literature notes is the same thing as processing your fleeting notes. Like processing your fleeting notes from the capturing stage is the same thing as taking from your reference notes to the literature notes. So it's what one is from an internal source inside your head to the external source, which is your resort, which is your podcast, articles, YouTube, whatever you're referring to. It's just referencing. Because basically you're in the fleeting note capture one, you're writing down the ideas you have before you forget about it. And for your reference notes, it's already written down for you. It's in a YouTube video, it's in a book. So you're recording that down as your bibliography. But now we got to process it. So in the from the fleeting notes, the processing, we're trying to wring out all our thoughts and our ideas. Well, with the literature notes, that's what you're doing with your book and your article. You're trying to wring out all the thoughts and ideas, but putting it into words that will resonate with you later on, so I understand what it's talking about. Because if I'm reading a textbook, it's like VCR instructions. For those of you know what a VCR is, where you're like, what the heck is this, right? But if you kind of change into the direction where it's like, they're talking about, oh, put this wiring over here and create this frequency over here, instead of just like saying, plug the black wire into the red hole. Oh, okay, I understand what's going on now. Anyway, that's all I had to say. So.
Well, no, what I hear you saying is you're stretching the cognitive limits. You're stretching right now. I love watching that. I love watching people attempting, you know what I mean? What they're doing is they're like, okay, I get this. Let me see if I can go a little bit more. It's like,
well, I don't know how to share my screen, but I got a picture here that helps some people, but I don't know how to share it.
Let's keep going here. So yes, someone else was going to jump in earlier. Sorry.
So this is Melody from Texas, and I'll just say that for me, it's sort of like, to kind of support Alan, it's sort of a matrix reference, like which pill are you going to take? Because in a way, most of us, the research shows, are very unable to say how we feel at any one point. We can't really name the emotion. We struggle with even those types of things. And this is getting to that point. What is the emotion that we're feeling when we read something, when something seems to make an aha moment for us, or exasperates us or frustrates us or makes us happy or makes us sad. So it's helping us build that muscle to be able to really figure out what the emotions are that we're having. But we're also often completely unconscious of why we're thinking a certain way or why we're actually having that particular feeling. So there are circumstances all around us that are just factual, but it's really based on our thinking that results in some sort of a feeling, which also can relate to the actions that we take, the results we get onward and down the line. When we're better at being able to connect all of this and sort of see how some strange circumstance or some strange text or something that we see on TV is affecting us, and we're able to name that emotion and then ask, why am I having that emotion? What is that bringing up for me? And we can follow the crumbs and really see that in a holistic way. We're much better able to link those things to where we want to be, where we're wanting to move forward. And that, I think, is really like a level of thought and action that we should all be striving to get towards.
I see so many people nodding their heads right now. I feel like Melody's dropping bombs right now. Come on. Does anyone want to piggyback on that?
Hi, it's Mary in Toronto. Like just listening to Melody, what I'm thinking is, you know, in terms of the education system, to some degree, it's not the intention of it, but it breeds curiosity out of you, right? It basically, you are not connecting with the emotion of curiosity. You know, sort of tying back into what George was saying a few weeks ago, right? The energy that you feel, that lifting, you know, that's not conscious thought, that's emotion. We don't necessarily have it's not like happy, sad, whatever, but that is an emotional reaction to something. And we sort of, we teach ourselves to ignore that, right? Because that's not useful in a school environment where you're performing for marks, where you're memorizing what you are told is important, right? Like part of the reason I think this way, I have two small kids, you know, I'm unschooling them right now. You know, like I read Peter Gray's Free to Learn, and it really just flipped my head on, you know, what we're doing with education, right? Like, and I think people have been mentioning in the chat, right? Like it's just how it's structured, like you're memorizing things, you know, was it Yvette who was talking earlier, like about, there's not that questioning anymore, right? Like, sorry, it's a bit, my words are a bit all over the place, but it's.
Yes,
like,
I love that. We're
we
stretching, yes.
Like we talk about science and the scientific method and stuff like that. And, you know, in conversations with my mom, I said, like, yes, science and religion completely are different, but both require faith, because I believe in science, but I don't have the capacity to run every single scientific experiment at home. I can't explain to you why my light turns on when it does. I know that I turn the switch and it turns on, right? Like, I have faith that science works because I see it work, but I still have to have faith in the scientists, you know, the doctors that I follow on Twitter, the scientists that I follow on Twitter. Like, I have to have faith that they're doing their job properly. At some point, it's not just all logic and reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, really what I'm asking to the group is how do I convince, or how do I argue the point that it's not just about writing out your emotions? It's not an emotional thing. It's not just about a touchy feeling thing as much as it is something else. And that's what I want to sort of see if we can, as a group, bridge that gap between.
You just explained it.
Yeah, I know.
You just did.
Can I go?
Please.
Hi, I'm Tina from Slovakia. So when it comes to when I was doing the exercise, I had the image in my head, and when I wanted to get into that particular experience, it was always tied to feelings. And what I also believe is that we have feelings all the time. There isn't a point when we don't have feelings. It's only in the present moment. So this is just becoming more familiar with ourselves and observing our feelings and how we act. So maybe that's one point.
Mm-hmm. Building on that, I think that the emotion, it's not reason versus emotion. They're just
It's
two
always
different systems. Some ideas have emotions or have feelings around them. And so it's not either or. You have an emotional management system. There's something you do when you feel an unwanted emotion, when you feel a wanted emotion, to get more of it or less of it, as the case may be. And so you have a whole system, and that is subject to reason, but it's also not completely controllable by reason.
It is. I believe it is. And this is down to neuroscience. And feelings and emotions, they're connected to hormones, hormonal
Absolutely.
centers. This is how you experience them in your body. This is quite new because we used to think of feelings that they're only abstract, but they are actually real. They're somewhere in our body.
Yeah, the reactions to our thoughts.
Or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
feelings
yeah.
feelings do trigger thoughts. It's your
Sure.
consciousness.
Yep.
Because when you are angry, you have specific feelings and thoughts. When you're happy, you have also different feelings and thoughts, and they are connected to consciousness.
Yep.
And hormones.
Here's a question, right? Like, does a tree know like to stop growing?
Not unless we interfere with it and we put bands around it to stop it. That's the
You
only
want a
time.
scientific answer?
Yes.
The Zen
Philosophical one.
There is. Yeah.
The Zen question.
There is a scientific answer?
Yes, there is.
I love this group. Can we hear it though? I would love to hear it.
I'll let Andrea do the honors. She's probably got better skill set than I have. I don't know. You were nodding there.
What causes a tree to stop
so
growing?
there is like there is a real network between trees usually. If you do not take like the random trees that you find on the streets that were like breeded that way, they have a real brain, but this brain works between the trees, and so they talk to each other. While really they use hormones, they even have like kind of like what we have as a brain. It's very slow. It's like 1 meter per second only. It's really, really slow compared to our brain. But they can talk to each other, and they really talk to each other. Okay, I will start taking a little less of the water, a little less of the nutrients, so the other trees can grow. So they know it the way we know it. And if you take out trees and you trim their roots, they get stupid, and that's the problem with the trees in the cities.
Yeah, and that's a much more beautiful scientific answer. My one was around sort of the same way that we know how far to stop growing. It's all the proteins that are made from our DNA and our RNA, and it's all sort of very much set up per. So,
but even they talk to each other. They really talk to each other.
Absolutely fascinating, and it's so true.
So they're very social beings, trees.
Listen,
there was an article today about space mushrooms. Did anyone hear the space mushrooms today? I'll see if I can find the link. There's a space fungi that we found that may or may not be sort of colonizing the outer space. Anyway, random.
I think most people know when to stop growing. It's when they get their diploma.
Shots fired.
Okay.
Ouch.
I think people reach
yeah,
this
please.
kind of okay plateau, right? Where they reach this point where they think they're good enough at what they're doing. They've learned enough. And like we talked about, they go into the autonomous stage. And then at that point, they stop learning, right? Because if you think about it, I mean, I still have to drive to work. I essentially practice driving every day, right? But I don't get any better at driving, even though I do it every day because I'm tuned out while I'm driving. If I were more actively engaged and watching things and looking around, every day I'd quantify what I was doing. Every day I would get better at driving, but that's not what happens. You reach this kind of okay spot and you check out.
I think it was Bruce Lee who said, I don't fear the person who has 10,000 kicks. I fear the person who practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Yeah. I just want to keep it open for people that haven't really spoken up. I just want to, listen, like everyone here is doing work. I can see your name. I can see the work you've done in the graph. So I just want to, Just like Yvette and Melody, or who was it? Yvette and Andrea. Was it Andrea? No, Andrea were able to sort of give us this gift of how trees are connected. I love it. RNA. I don't know what you were saying, but it's just like everyone has something to give. If you whether you believe it or not, you know, and it's just I just want to open up to people that haven't really spoken up and people that are, you know, maybe struggling, maybe having breakthroughs, maybe confused, maybe having fun, maybe enjoying the process. Maybe don't want to
Perhaps
speak
I
up.
can add something about this feeling issue because I really try to see the world in a very scientific way, and I was always appalled by this word feeling, because you know feeling is like, oh, love, hatred, but I think now what I understand, you know, because this is like the extreme kinds of feelings. But as soon as I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I want to talk about that, or this is already a feeling. And so once I understood that part, it made it much more easy to be able to write down what I want to write down. To classify feelings not as those like extreme ways like love, hatred. Yeah, they're feelings, but that's not what I will not feel completely utter love if I read a scientific paper, but I will feel, oh, that's interesting, or I do not disagree, and perhaps there is a little bit of hatred, but it's like not this like evil hatred immediately. And as soon as I have this feeling, which is way less than like those complete like extremes, I will feel encouraged to write something down.
Yeah, I'm gonna add something real quick on top of that one. It's like I feel like everyone's like, I'm not reaching an aha moment, and I'm like, have you reached a moment yet? It's like, calm down, like, you'll get there. Like, it's like you need to jump on what Andrea said. It's like, yeah, when you're not gonna like fall in love with, you know, this scientific equation, right? You know, it will trigger. It's a stimuli, and it's gonna trigger some reaction. You know, and your amygdala, the part of your brain that's like caveman-like, right? It's gonna go off and it's gonna be like, oh, it's interesting, or I'm confused, or you know, something, right? And then what happens is that's why the emotional awareness is important, because you know, oh, I'm feeling a thing. You know, I actually had a problem with that. I barely pay attention to my feelings, so it's really important to me to go, oh, I feel this thing, okay? So now what am I going to do with it? Let's engage, you know, the human side now, my prefrontal cortex. Let's engage the shit that makes me actually think. And I go, okay, why? You know, what is it? Why did this resonate? And that's when my notes really, you know, take form. So I think it's really, really important to everyone not to think like it's a massive, massive moment, to really understand like it's a step process. Just be aware of those little things, and then slowly engage, and then it will all click together.
I'd love to share, everyone. Bronson and Katie here. It's been just a joy and a gift to be part of this community. Bo, brother, you are channeling something very special. And yeah, I'd love to share that my experience of all this has been one of truly being lost into the miracle of life. And this has been like a spiritual experience to me. And it's going to Einstein's, you know, belief, either you see everything in life as a miracle or not. And, you know, I did some journaling. I saw the miracle of this cup and the miracle of what's happening right now for my voice to be expressing through this microphone, traveling through the interweb, out your microphone, our speakers into your ears, changing the neurons in your mind. And what the Zettelkasten really does is allow me to transfer this energy. We talk about knowing beyond knowing, transfer that into an expressible format that perhaps some of you are feeling right now.
Bravo.
And hello to all my internet friends. I know we've crossed paths in different ways, and sending lots of aloha from Hawaii to all of you.
Wow.
Hi, this is Joris from Belgium. For me, the system made me think of a book I read not a few years ago, Thinking Fast and Slow from Daniel Kahneman, where he was talking about, when we talk about feelings, I think it's more our intuition and how we associate things, and we try to structure it consciously, and this is what Rome allows. You can structure whatever comes up, and it's a place that gives you a certain tranquility. So you know everything you hear and you think, and you put it out there, and then you can come back to it and work on it later. So, and that is really something that is very valuable. I think that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, Matt Brockwell just said Thinking Fast and Slow was cited by Connor as one of his favorite books.
Do you like the fast part or the slow part?
Both.
Yeah, here is Yashin from Netherlands. I also like this book, The Fast Slow. It reminds me, because I'm from Eastern China, a philosophy of the, maybe I translate it, oneness of feeling and practice. You must, for example, you see a flower, you do not see the entity of the flower. You also have this feeling of the flower, the smell of the flower, the color, and the implication or the meaning. Like today's Mother's Day, the flower you give your mother. So you combine your feelings and the entity. Maybe that's the dual system mentioned by the Kahneman. And yeah, I like people saying collecting the feelings, and especially last 2 days, I had this aha moment that when I write the fleeting notes, I concentrate on my feelings. Yeah, that's true. And when I saw Bo was writing the fleeting notes first, then the literature notes. I don't know whether it's intentional or unintentional, but when I do like his way, I've realized when I'm focusing on the fleeting notes, I'm focusing on myself. But when I'm doing the literature notes, I'm talking with the author, and I'm trying to think how he reached this point, the logic behind this points. So I'm kind of collect the books, the points of those books. So I start understand the book, the essence of the book, and the logical reasoning behind the book. So that's one thing I start feel, wow, I really understand this book. That's my aha moment. Thank you.
I'm watching Isaiah's face right now. Yeah, he's like, this mother, he just gave me the answer, huh? He just gave me the answer.
What answer? No.
You did. It was great. I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it.
No, I have a question. You do fleeting notes intentionally first, and then literature notes, because usually we do highlighting, yeah, just like copying. These are maybe literature notes, and then we do some reflections.
The fleeting notes,
ideas.
The fleeting notes gives us the information. So when we meet the author, we respect and we respect what the author has put out into the world. And so but I need that information. I need to be informed by my abstractions of my fleeting ideas of what this resonates with me, the feelings, the emotions, whatever that is. Like, what the hell is this? Why of all the gin joints in all the world, she ends up in this bar? You know what I mean? Like, of all the blocks, of all the paragraphs, of all the sentences, why did this one stand out? And then once we figure out what that is, then we bring that information up to meet the author. And as we're meeting the author, that information goes, hey, I understand that you put days, months, years, decades into writing that paragraph with that sentence exactly located where it was supposed to be. I spent 15 critical minutes of figuring out why that one point resonated with me. I'd like to have a conversation with you. Let me see if I understand what you're saying with the information that I did from the fleeting notes to rewrite what the author is saying in my own words.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Yeah, I'm prepared to talk with the
Prepared.
author.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm now ready before. Yeah, I start to realize before I was just capturing. I'm not talking, communicating with the author. Yeah, that's my aha moment.
So I wanna just touch upon this idea real quick. The reason that the reason that day 21 was the halfway point, and we did let me just do gallery view here. The reason that day 21 is not it almost feels anticlimactic. You're like, well, how is this the climax of everything? How is this the inflection point, right? It's almost like that scene. It's almost like that scene in The Matrix, right? Has everyone seen The Matrix? Well, if you haven't, let me explain it, right? So basically, the scene is about Neo, and it's basically he's on a rooftop, right? And he has to jump, and he has to make this jump, and he doesn't know if this is reality, if this is a dream, if he's in the Matrix or not, and he goes, I believe, and then he jumps off the building, and then he falls right into the concrete. So he didn't fly, he didn't jump over the two buildings, right? And afterwards, he was like, I really felt like I believed. And he's like, no one ever gets the first one right. No one ever flies across. And the reason that day 21 is this inflection point is because to write a permanent note is probably the most scariest thing that you're ever going to do, fear-wise. Because you're basically putting yourself out there into the world vulnerably. And the definition of, it's a declarative statement. The root word of declarative is clarer, which means clarity. And you're saying, here's my clear statement to the world. An abstraction of all my thoughts and all of my author's thoughts. And so the minute that we do that, what's happening is now we're liable to be criticized for it. It's very vulnerable. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit in regards to the fear of having a voice, like Bronson was talking about, the fear of speaking your mind, the fear of having an opinion, the fear of saying what you really think.
I think this whole being opinionated about something, I think it will really hit hard once you reach like 1 year working in a Zettelkasten and you suddenly realize, oh, 1 year ago I saw this one aspect this way and now I have a different opinion. I think because I think everybody knows we have opinions, but that they can change in very drastic ways, I think that's not very apparent to us. And once you really see your own thoughts that you have completely buried deep inside yourself 1 year later, I think then it will really hit us hard. But until then, we have to go through it and put our opinions in there to see the change.
Yeah, I think it's a strong resistance, fighting against yourself in a way. And this process as well, as you said, it's questions that it digs deep, and you have to kind of do the work to really see what bubbles up at the top. So it's
Off you go. Close the door behind you. Thank you. Love you.
Journey.
So I see this as a sort of a filter, like I need to make the permanent note like really good, so it makes me work at the fleeting notes phase and the literature note phase. So when I get to the permanent note, I'm really sure I want to be really sure that this is what I want to like put there. So it's like a filter, like really work for it.
What if you're wrong?
It's all right. Your future self will check you, and he'll be like, he'll see your note. He's like, stupid. You're fucking wrong.
But it's easy to say that. It's almost like, you know, if my dad got cancer, right? Like, it's easy to say, yeah, I'd probably be able to walk through that, right? But it's not the same as actually going, oh shit. Like looking at it, and then, you know what I mean? It's.
But you learn and you're humbled.
I think there's the opportunity for more generosity in this format. Like if you think about it, like we all logically know that we change our mind, but you know, on Twitter, people just tend to glom on and bash people for things that they said however long ago, or things that they're saying now that they might not have thought out meticulously, like we just have learned to do, where we really clarify our thinking. So as someone was just saying, like this gives us the opportunity to really clarify our thinking and state with intention. So I think it was Jiri. And then not only that, but then the way that Rome could allow us to interact in this network thinking is to be generous in our responses, to really tease out like the exact format that we use, right? Is that this is what I hear you saying. Could you answer this question for me? Right? Like this, I mean, you know, that's obviously part of what we're doing here is learning to be really generous with ourselves and each other. But the format, I think, lends itself to that generosity as well.
I think too, though, that just the structure of kind of how things are laid out. I mean, first, there were a lot of smart people who thought the earth was flat, right? So if you're wrong, it's totally okay because you'll figure it out. But I think because of the way the structure is, you can go back to this moment in time, maybe, it's theoretical, right? And I haven't gotten there yet, but you should be able to go back to this moment in time and say, okay, you know what, right here, this is the point where my thinking was flawed in this whole structure. And because my thinking was flawed here, every conclusion that I drew after that was flawed. Everything up here was okay, but I got to this point and I made a mistake. What was it that made me draw the conclusion about what I did right here that dramatically affected everything below it all the way up to the permanent note? Then we can figure out where our thinking was off. We can fix that. And then going forward, we don't think that way or we don't draw that same conclusion. So we're that much better. So it's a way to kind of check ourselves how we got to that conclusion and go back and reverse analyze it, I think.
Hi, everyone. This is Rodolfo from Lima. Thanks for that tip, Alan. I think that it will help a lot. To me, that my fear to your question, Bo, is not feeling that I'm writing anything original. Actually, I did the exercise and I left a tag saying not finished because I couldn't. And my Rome is filled with literature notes because it's easier to do that book report. But when it comes to, and I granted being part of this group, and sorry that I didn't do the first exercise in the beginning. I kind of have had a scheduling issue, but I'm catching up. I think I need to put more into fleeting notes, and that's where the magic comes, you know, searching inside. But still, like when I did it in this exercise, I couldn't figure out what was original about it. Like, who would want to read this, or would I want to read this again, or is it different than what has already been said? And I kind of hit a block there, and I don't know if anybody has suggestion. I think it has to deal with the fear of failure, you know, the same, but still it's very specific. It's like and then it's troublesome because then I spend 30 minutes in the blog and I haven't done anything, and I say I need to get back to life. You know, I can't spend too much on this, so it's an issue I've been dealing with.
But Rodolfo, even if we see the same thing, my perspective of what that is and your perspective of what that is, like two eyewitnesses of a crime, can be very different because I'm looking at it through my filters and my life experience, and you're looking at it through your life experience. And so even though the nucleus of it is the same thing, something that someone's already spoken about before, what they haven't heard, what no one has heard, is how you perceive and process it. And that's the value that you're bringing to the world by expressing that and surfacing that, so that you're aware of what your thought is about this concept or keyword or idea, so that you can communicate that and articulate that for the world.
I'll add on to that one as well. I'll say, how many love songs have you listened to, Rodolfo? They're all about the same nucleus, but you know, it's everyone's different expression and version, and you like those, you know. So I'm interested in what you have to say, just like I'm interested in all those 1,000 love songs.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks.
It's not the goal, it's the journey.
And I agree. I think a lot of times we're thinking in terms of what's right and what's wrong. And we have to fix that. And oh, we had our opinion and it's outdated now, or we found new information and now that's wrong. I actually think that at every point, our opinions are right in a certain way for certain situations and for certain times and based on your own experience. And that's why I think the fleeting notes and the way that we're learning how to capture everything that we're feeling about certain things is so beautiful, because we can go back and be more generous and kind to ourselves and be like, oh, that's why I felt that way at that time. And it's not necessarily that I was wrong. It made sense because of those reasons. And then with this new information, I can create a new opinion based on that. And I feel like we're very kind to other people. At least for me, I can understand, oh, I see where you were coming from there. And let me explain what I feel. But then when it comes to my own opinion, I beat myself up. Like, why did I think that then? I was so wrong. This is what's right. And I think through these exercises, I'm trying to learn how to be a little bit more self-compassionate and generous. I'm able to extend that to other people, but not to myself. But I think that this whole process kind of helps us to see that, yeah, maybe there isn't a right and a wrong, but it's just our own opinions based on our own experiences.
Hey,
lovely.
Yeah. So, hey, it's Michael from Newport in the U.S. Just had a thought, because I felt the fear. You know, I was really looking forward to the day we would get to write our first permanent note, and but then when I got there, I was feeling this pressure that the permanent note had to be both profound and true. And of course, that those are goals that are unattainable, certainly at this point, and maybe ever. And so I offer two things that helped me, and maybe it would help someone else. The first was I looked at what a number of you were writing, and was quite impressed. It was both inspiring and a little unnerving, but it was very, very helpful. The other thing is I tried to think of it from a different perspective, and that is, what could I write, given my thinking today, what could I write that might be helpful to me tomorrow or in the future? It actually would not be helpful if I just wrote a platitude, or something that is sort of tautologically true, or a really nice soundbite. But if I could write something that might be useful to me in the future, that would be really cool, even if it was prosaic or banal. So that's my offering in this issue of fear.
Is it almost like sort of whenever you write books or draw art, it's like it's completely pointless to try and write a book, think, well, what do people want to read? What does somebody else interested in? It's like, well, I want to write what I think's important, and then it doesn't really matter. There's no sort of global scale where we can sort of like give you marks out of 100 for what yours looks like. It's like, well, what's important to me? The other thing I think is the fact you can change it. This is the thing, you have the power. You're not writing this in stone or indelible ink. You can change it if things change. So I think sort of just writing what feels right to you at that moment is really powerful, and I think that's a really positive thing to do. It's true. It's at that point, it's true. It's kind of irrelevant whether it's factually true. It is true for you. That's really important.
No, I see this. Hey, go on, Matthew.
Oh, thanks. Hey, Matt here from chiming in from Saudi Arabia. I think what you just said is really cool and in an interesting way, because thinking about Rome as like not as like a singular, like focus on your own graph, but like when you have a shared graph with multiple people, when people can kind of follow see what you're writing, and then how that kind of see what you're writing about, or like what your kind of main, I guess, parent block level is, but then see where that kind of leads you or where that came from. I think that opens up a new layer of editing that could take, depending on what you're writing, whether it's like a paper or a book, that could take the story that you're trying to tell in some interesting ways.
Okay. I'm sorry. I did pee. This is what I want everyone to do. Let's go ahead and open up the shared graph if you don't have it open already, and let's fire off day 22's template. If you don't have access to the graph, you can just copy paste what I just posted into the chat. Hopefully that comes out right. I'm sorry, I just muted everybody. So yeah. Just raise your hand can you just raise your hand if you need more time? Okay. Keep your hand raised if you need more time. Michael, I see. Okay. So again, go to your...
Yep.
Yeah.
It's taking a long time for the graph to load.
Yeah. So just so everyone can see here, let's go ahead and close that out. Let's close out Twitter, Slack. Okay, so basically go to your page. I'll do it again for everyone. Boom. Oops. Let's do that again. Uh-oh. Okay. Let me delete that. Okay, so go into your page and basically hit enter, use the semicolon twice, and then type in 22 and fire off that day's template. And then let's go ahead and do current time, change that. Bo, is your graph much quicker to load than everyone else's? I don't know. Not really. I just had it open.
I'm good now.
Okay. And we have 3 more people that have their hands raised, and we're just going to wait for them real quick. I'm still astrolabbing over here. Yeah. You could always do this on your own. Yeah.
Mine is still loading.
Yeah, you could always just copy paste this text. I'll just paste it there. Boom. You could paste that into your own graph for now, and then just copy it over, if that makes sense. I tried 3 times last night to catch up, but kept getting loading error. Yeah, I mean, it's just a really big graph. It's probably 1.5 gigs, I think, and it has to load it all up. I would avoid mobile, and I would avoid iPad if you can, desktop or laptop. Should we not do if we're still on day? No. Let's just all do this. Why not? We're just gonna do a little guided writing. I'm not gonna do music right now either, because I think I want to, for people that aren't able to show up, I want them to see this. We are pushing the limits of the graph. We're also pushing the limits of our cognitive ability too, which I think is more exciting. I think we're all getting smarter just by hanging out together, by the way. I see you, Shimon. Okay, I have Deb and Yvette. I'm still waiting for you two. Just let me know. Okay, Yvette, yeah, just copy it into your graph for now. Or you know what I can do? I think it's help, maybe? If I can just throw it in here. Let me give you the link to this. So if you don't have access to the graph, just go to this link right here. Oh, shit. this? And I'll just add it to the, there we go. So, yeah, so basically.
I got it now.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to sign back into, oh, now I have to wait for mine to load. Deb, I'm going to lower your hand. Okay, so basically what I'd like for you to do is just do the current timestamp always, and then what I'd like for you to do is just zoom into the block that has the current timestamp. Just click on the bullet point itself, and now you've got this. And then you see the one that's in the blue. Let's go ahead and shift click on that, but I have to wait for this one to load. If you shift click on that, let me just do it on this one, just so everyone can see. Again, zoom into the bullet point just so it's in focus here. You can follow the breadcrumbs to come back up, and then shift click on, so hold shift and click on the blue. And then right there, this is the source material. And it's really just this first 2 words right here. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you just to capture, what is this word, what does this mean to you? What does everybody writes mean to you? And I'd like for you to sort of zoom into the block that has fleeting notes now that it's in the sidebar, and just spend 5 minutes, tops. I'm gonna do a Pomodoro timer. Yeah, let's do a Pomodoro timer. Let's just do 5 minutes. No, we're gonna do 3 minutes, because it's a short text. 3-minute Pomodoro timer starting now. What does this mean to you? What resonates with you when you hear the word, when you hear the words everybody writes? About 20 seconds. Okay, so that was 3 minutes. Now what I'd like to do is I would like to spend the next 10 minutes. I'm just gonna do another Pomo timer. I'm gonna do another. Let's do 13 minutes. Why not? Just making this up. Let's do 13 minutes. What we're gonna do is okay. Let's go ahead and bring all of the things that you wrote here. Let's go ahead and bring them all back. So hold Shift and hit Tab, and bring them all back so they're all sibling blocks. Even though you had it structured before earlier, where you had like the indentation scheme. I'll see you, Matt. But for now, let's just go ahead and bring them all back so they're all sibling blocks underneath this fleeting notes tag. So they're children underneath the fleeting notes tag, but they're all siblings, so they're all on the same level. And now what I like to do is I'd like to spend the next 13 minutes, like this is how I actually prefer to do it. What I'll do is I'll actually click on the bullet point for each one of them, and then I'll just abstract everything I can here. And then then basically I'll follow the breadcrumb back up, and then I'll go to the next bullet point, and it's the same thing. But you don't have to. You can do it however you want. But let's just spend the next 13 minutes doing that, okay? Let me just double check. Does anyone have any questions? Raise your hand if you have any questions, though, just so I know. But I feel like, or just unmute yourself. But I feel like let's spend the next 13 minutes. What I want you to do is basically go into each one of these bullet points and abstract out what this means to you. And 13 minutes starts now. got about another 8 minutes. About 3.5 minutes left. About 20 seconds here. So now I'd like for you to, that was 13 minutes. And yeah, if you need to leave, but I do recommend finishing this exercise just so you can see how this all unravels here. So now, just looking through all the abstractions that you did, and what I'd like for you to do is just sort of summarize on this block right here that has the hashtag fleeting notes tag. It's not about having everything in there. It's just about having it so when I close this bullet point, that I'll know what's inside. And because everything's in my own words, and because I have an experience of this, it's not that I'll never forget this, because I remember doing this on Mother's Day with 81 people on the call. So it's like, it's an experience. It's no longer just a note. So it doesn't have to have every piece of information, but just so you can quickly look at this and know what's inside. So let's do another 2 minutes on this. Got another 20 seconds or so. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is, let's go ahead and collapse that bullet point, or yeah, collapse the bullet point, so all you have is the summary there. You already know what it is. You already have the momentum moving forward. So now what I'd like to do is, you have the source material right here. You have the entire paragraph there to give you a little bit of context. You also have the exact point of the capture. And I suppose it's different because it's not your capture, but I feel like you've done enough work in the abstraction process of the fleeting notes to tackle this. So now what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to, you being informed by the information from the fleeting notes, what is the author saying in your own words about this phrase, everybody writes? Why would he use that word? Why would he use those two words together? And why would he make a sentence with just those two words? And I'll do I'll do 5 minutes on this one. And surprise yourself. Let your thinking, because we're not limited to the index cards anymore, let your thinking be revealed in your writing in the literature notes. So underneath, so basically the child block underneath the hashtag literature notes, just type in here, and then you can abstract as much as you want out here. So you have the space. We'll start the timer for 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm not getting much on this one either. Just because it's a short piece of text. Let's just spend the next 2 minutes summarizing on the block that has the literature notes hashtag of what you wrote here. Just so again, this is a thumbnail to provide you with scope and focus so you don't have to open that block. And even if you wrote something very precise, see if you can summarize it on that block. Again, it's just part of the thinking process. I'm going to start another timer. The more that we think about things, the more that we have to reword things, the more that we're thinking about it too. So I'll just start another timer for 2 minutes. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for, okay, this is just something in my own words that I'm writing. So now what I like to do is, so now being informed by the fleeting notes that you abstracted, being informed by the literature notes that you abstracted, summarized on the block. You also have the source material here in the sidebar. Let's go ahead and write a clear statement of all the thinking that you've just done. Write a clear statement of what you feel like you want to say in your own words, declaring, this is my thought, this is my crystallized thought. It doesn't have to hit every single point as much as it does. It has to be a very thought through moment in time right now. It doesn't mean that you can't change this later. It just means right now, today, this is what I'm thinking in a crystallized manner. And I'll set a timer for 3 minutes on this one. Let's make it 5 minutes. So Dr. K asked, is it normal for the permanent note to strongly resemble the fleeting note summary? Yes. Sometimes it's going to resemble the fleeting note summary. Sometimes it's going to resemble the literature note summary. Sometimes you can copy paste the literature note summary. Sometimes you can copy paste the fleeting note summary. But I do want to spend the next 5 minutes, see if you can dig even deeper to get even clearer clarer, declarative on this one statement. we've got about another minute left here. If you feel like you've crystallized that thought, go ahead and highlight the text itself and then wrap it with double open brackets. Okay, so who wrote this? Who am I? Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so it is time. I want to make sure I respect everyone's time here. So what I'd like for everyone to do is, I'm going to follow this breadcrumb back up here. And let's just, ooh, what is this? That's next week. Let me just take a look here. Okay, so that's good for now. Yeah, what I want to just recommend everyone do is, I'm going to stop sharing. Just to wrap it up, I'll keep the meeting going so we can share what everyone wrote individually, but I just want to, just for people that do need to leave, because we are hitting the 2-hour mark, what I'd like for you to do is go back and read everyone's answers. Read everyone's crystallized thought. And I think you're going to be surprised at how varied it is and how everyone's unique. Everyone has their own idiosyncrasies. Everyone has their own experiences, and to see how everyone got to a different crystallized idea. And when I think about finding my own voice, the title of today, it's, yeah, you can post it right there. Finding my own voice and finding your own voice amidst all of that. Knowing that we all started from the same place, and to see the implications of that. So if you need to leave, please, you know, I'm just going to keep recording here. And then for everyone else that's going to stick around, I'd like to just, I guess, just unmute yourself. And if you want to just share your permanent note with us.
There is so much writing that is being done that it's easy to forget that it all indeed is writing.
Bo, do we have time for a poem?
Come on, of course.
All right, this is you have to remember the entire conversation, both verbally and in the chat. But it's most of what we said is in here somewhere. Okay, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow. In the graph, we think both fast and slow. Ideas flowing, circulating, the lifeblood of community thought. Pushed fast by our hearts and slowed to be examined by our minds. Every endeavor starts with a note. Like trees, we communicate over vast distances, waves of thinking flowing across an ever-filling sea of tranquility. Like hundreds of chess prodigies, we absorb one another's moves, processing, thought and emotion combine to create new concepts in infinite combination as we ingest, digest, and process, rewriting the ideas of others, working individually and together to produce originality. Positively connected, fully charged, we throb and vibrate like excited neurons at full potential. Mobile nerve cells moving consciously toward a shared future where diverse opinions unite to change our lives, where collaborative knowledge becomes transformation. We are kind and compassionate to our past selves, For in the graph, our thoughts are made visible. We continue to learn from them. We're joyfully becoming who we will be, minds wide open, knowing the journey is sometimes greater than the goal. This is the way.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa. Whoa.
Fantastic.
Awesome, man.
Fantastic.
Awesome,
Yes.
awesome.
Go, Joey. Go.
Yes. That was awesome, dude.
Thank you.
And thanks for sticking your neck out to do that.
Yeah.
Could you summarize that in one line?
Well, I'll also share my my last fleeting note and my zettel,
Yes.
my permanent note. so my so my permanent note is: everyone writes for a multitude of purposes, communicating with oneself and others in habitual autological pangraphesis. And then my last fleeting note is: I just took a very simple concept, everyone writes, and turned it into complicated academic jargon. Oh no, I'm the anti-Feynman.
The anti-Feynman.
Take a simple concept and explain it like you're explaining it to a PhD.
I love it.
Well, I can't compete with that, but this is my permanent note. Record your thoughts in writing so they can be used in whatever way they are needed in the future, whether that be a quick note or a carefully crafted piece of writing that will in turn make the reader think or act on it further.
Nice.
That's the real Feynman.
That was very nice. Love the poetry there, and I'll keep the trend going. Maybe mine a little shorter again. I wrote, "Writing is a foundational human activity."
All right, mine as well. It's shorter. It goes, writing is the only way to think with ourselves. That was mine.
I'll go next. Recognizing what compels you to write anything shall reveal who you are. Writing is how you discover yourself. That's my permanent note. And my fleeting note is writing didn't come naturally to me. It was something I did based on external forces. I do not recall when I first felt the need to write something down, but it is important to explore what makes me want to write.
I can go next. Deb Hart here, New York City. And I wrote in the permanent note, every human being on the planet should be given the gift of writing for unfettered self-actualization.
That's
And
good.
And my fleeting note was, or is because we all are, and RBCB4 BH is guiding us toward discovering how we can all hear without colliding while massively growing regardless of starting point.
This is Terry Lonier in Chicago. Writing is both a verb and a noun, the result of a dialogue between my mind and the words I read and the ideas I ingest from others. The boundaries between writing, thinking, and reading present intriguing thought experiments about the nature of ideas. For example, if an idea is not captured in writing, does it exist? Like a tree falling in the forest if no one is around.
That's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is George in New York. I have my fleeting note is simultaneous writing is about getting the sum of multi-thinking. And my permanent note is collaborative, cooperative thinking can be much better than the sum of its parts, the exact opposite of groupthink.
Antidote.
Yeah, this is Joshua from Italy, if you can hear me. I'm still on my cell phone, which is funny. I'm sitting in front of my desk, but I didn't want to disconnect to reconnect. So anyway, here it goes. My last,
Fine.
what's that?
Just fine.
Oh, awesome. Anyway, so my fleeting note, I may have took a different tack on it, but so it goes. It says creation in any form comes from within. Our words are our art with the big shapes removed. We create some form of art. That's my last one. My permanent note, it says, do not fear writing. The quality or quantity can be improved upon. This lack of content, lack of creation cannot. I also put a little create. So.
Just before, well, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Sorry.
I'll jump in. Seattle, Julie, Seattle, USA. My permanent note. Writing is one of the most powerful inventions created. It is a form of living and enhancing living, of being changed and changing others. And it is thus worthy of figuring out how to pursue it and get through any resistance to a place of regular writing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hey, it's Michael from Newport. Mine is sort of like Carol's, but nowhere near as good. Basically, permanent note, writing is such a fundamental tool for living in our society that we can improve how we live by improving how we write. My fleeting note was, I hate Pomodoro timers.
All right, mine is probably the same way. I'm Bruno from Brazil. My permanent note is you polish your thoughts when you write them down, and you can have a more shining outcome from it if you become better on writing. And my fleeting notes is some kind the same. Writing makes you shape your thought better and helps you to have more clear thought. And I need to write more to think better and to improve my writing too.
I'll jump in there. This is Vincent from San Francisco. My permanent note was, writing enables everyone to discover their own point of view. And the fleeting note was, everyone who thinks also writes because thinking is writing. Sadly, our educational conditioning that's often predicated on praise fools people into thinking that they either are or aren't writers. Writing helps us think, and that's dangerous to anyone who wants you compliant to their agenda.
Ouch. Shots fired.
Okay, it's Michael Flor from Germany. So many beautiful thoughts here. I only contribute something very simple. My permanent note was, writing is a universal human activity. It is always precious as it always reflects an attempt to save and communicate thought beyond the limits of the own mind. And my fleeting note was, writing is a fundamental way of thinking most of us do all the time, because there are so many activities where we have to write something. Any kind of writing is precious, not only books and papers.
Very true.
Hey, this is Patrick from Germany. My permanent note is, writing is the fundamental and universal mechanism which allows everyone, no matter the age, race, income, or faith, to store information, share it with others, and learn from it. And my fleeting note is quite similar. Writing is a universal ability, and it connects all diverse groups of humanity. Although it is a fundamental tool, the level at which it is taught is still mostly the elementary level, which stops us from evolving into a better society.
Okay, I will jump in. Thank you. Oh, your topics are very broad. I never compared to you. My permanent notes was writing is our given gift. Through writing and reading, I'm engaged with the word and give me new ideas or just black space to rediscuss or rediscover the word. I always cherish that first touch whenever I reading or writing. So my fleeting notes is writing helps me to empty my brain and love the word with an innocent heart. Yeah. I just like writing is empty my brain. Yeah. Yeah. A new perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Stefan in UK. So my permanent notes would be: writing is a chance, a gift that provides most of us with the ability to remember, learn, communicate, and develop the most advanced concepts. Being respectful of its fundamental magical value is one of the strongest incentives to contribute to making the world a better place.
This is Jens Christian from Switzerland. My permanent note is writing is a method for syncing and storing information for a future reader. It is an effector for a future deed that it influences. And the fleeting note is writing allows me to think through thoughts much deeper than I have been doing so far, and I can send my thoughts through space and time to cause effect with a reader. But not everybody does writing or is able to do as it would be required for real thinking to happen.
I'd like to share after that one. I was really nervous too before because I felt like mine was so different. So I'm forcing myself to be vulnerable. My fleeting note is we often have assumptions that people have a certain level of access to resources, in this case, education. It is a privilege to be literate, and it allows us to shape our worldview in certain ways with clarity and confidence. So my permanent note, we often assume that people have access to certain resources that allow them to function in society. Everyone has the ability to think clearly, to learn, and to live a meaningful life, but this may look differently from person to person given their circumstances. Compassion is the key to human connection and growth.
I like that. Very good.
David in LA. This is my permanent note. The world is impossibly complex, infinite goings on. All things leave a record. A tree's rings store information, same with dinosaur fossils, but writing is a long-lasting living record, accessible and capable of returning the reader to a thinking process, still alive.
Ooh, nice.
Mikael here from Sweden, and my permanent note was dialogue through writing allows reaching for asynchronous reaction from inner and outer states of being. Thanks.
Tina from Slovakia. My permanent note is writing is one of the best ways to elaborate because the meaning of something is not always obvious. Then the fleeting note, writing is not the outcome of thinking, it's the medium where thinking takes place.
Andrea from Germany. My permanent note is writing is an integral part of our lives as we tend to do it all the time. But the reasons to write down certain things can vastly differ between different settings we are facing in day-to-day life. It can be totally boring or it can blow our minds. And my fleeting note was writing as a way to outsource knowledge, capture my thinking, and to learn how to think.
I'll jump in here too. It's Duncan from the UK, and I felt a bit similarly vulnerable to Katie. I think I went down a slightly different track, but with writing isn't special. It doesn't belong on a pedestal. It's a fundamental skill in a society. It doesn't belong to a privileged few, but not all have the privilege to access it. My fleeting note was, it's so easy to assume that everybody roughly looks like oneself. It's somewhat trivial, but not everybody writes. Not everyone is able to write. Not everyone is able to read. And both of those things are profound disabilities in today's world.
Yes, amen to that.
Yeah, Nikki from the UK, I'll go next because I was also inspired by Katie and Duncan. Thinking is pervasive. Writing down our important thoughts and ideas gets better with practice, helps us retain information, and might require some courage and practice to start. But it is possible for everyone, and writing will improve our thinking over time. And my fleeting note was, everyone can write, but for some of us, writing takes courage and practice. Show up, do the work, and enjoy the fruits of your labour.
Where's Leah? Is she here? Was she here today?
No, I haven't seen her
I don't think
today.
so.
We miss you,
Yeah.
Leah.
Yay.
Okay, let's keep going.
Bronson from Hawaii again. My fleeting note was, when we go beyond the limits of dualism, writing is not an act of using words. Writing is being. And since all human beings are in a state of being, humanity is constantly writing an evolving story of collective consciousness beyond words. And my permanent note was...
Wait, I'm still thinking about that. that was pretty
dynamite.
That was deep.
You're gonna blow minds if it's tighter than that. That was wonderful.
That's why I need my wife here, Katie, to keep me tethered, because otherwise I would drift off and evaporate into the sun. My permanent note, maybe, I don't know, maybe it packages it better, is the story of humanity is being written without words. The story is about an ever-present and evolving collective consciousness.
Okay, I'm Damon from Wellington in New Zealand. My permanent note was, being reflexive about writing is being reflexive about ourselves, is being reflexive about our world. And then I had a couple of questions. How to do that with the utmost directness and simplicity. The freedom and discernment I found in recollective awareness is also found in a Rome Zettelkasten. And my fleeting note, again, it refs recollective awareness. Fleeting note and recollective awareness, the same freedom and noticing patterns.
I guess I'll go next. So my permanent note was, writing allows us to break the shackles of expectations and limitations that society places upon us, allowing us to think, learn, and discover for ourselves what life means to us. And my fleeting notes is, everyone has challenges, stories, ideas, inspirations, and experiences to share growing up. And writing frees you to think all of this through, whether simple or complex.
Hi, I'm Jasmine from the Philippines. And my permanent note is, everyone has something to write about, and you can get to know a person by what they prefer to write. I do not need to compare my writing with others, because just like everyone else, I also have something to share to the world. And my fleeting note is, writing is a personal thing. And literature note, people write whatever is important to them.
Bravo.
I'm Linda from Texas, and my permanent note was, everyone has a voice. It may or may not be written. It is unique and has value because it was created and expressed. Will, can, and should it be remembered?
This isn't my words, but I've just looked up write in my word menu book. And the description is record data in memory.
Maybe another 5 more minutes. Anyone else need to share?
Okay, I'll share mine. This is Anna from Italy, I guess. My permanent note is writing is not just the output of thinking, it allows us to think more deeply. To take advantage of the full potential of writing, we need to recognize its power as a thinking tool. My fleeting note was completely different. It was, we write all the time for many reasons and not always consciously.
Very nice.
I noticed a phenomena that I've noticed a few times this past week. After Bronson, you shared what you wrote, I thought about this idea that writing can point to what is beyond writing. And I thought, oh, that has the flavor of something I want to write about. That's something very dear to me. And it's like, that has the flavor of a permanent note or of some kind of truth. And I've noticed this a couple of times when I'm not working in the graph or responding to prompts, but just other things. It's almost like a feeling. It's like, oh, I'm kind of doing a fleeting note, even though I'm in a conversation with a friend. There's like the energy of fleeting noteness, or I'm trying to put what somebody else is saying into my own words and understand it. It's like, oh, that's like the energy of literature noteness. and then this sense of, oh, that's kind of permanent noteness, like that's floating. It's like cream floating to the top. So I wanted to share that feels like
Anyone else feeling that?
An internalization of the process we're doing. What did you say, Bo?
I said, anyone else feeling that? Anyone else? You know, it's like when you, it's almost like when you have like two fighters coming together, like in MMA, right? And like when you, it doesn't matter if you win or lose that fight, it rubs off, you know? And it's that same sort of like osmosis of when you're hanging around this dialogue partner, when you're thinking about thinking in this way, it like rubs off. And I just love it. Very interesting.
Julie, I love that. And we were thinking about sharing today too. It's amazing that we were able to go through this. We are going through this process as a couple so that we can actually have conversations about the whole process. And I'm personally noticing how it's changing how I'm thinking throughout the day, just like how you're seeing fleeting notes everywhere in conversation. And to kind of shine some light, one of the issues, long-standing issues we've had in our 10-year relationship is that sometimes we're just so excited about things that one person will kind of take the stage and talk forever, and then the other person wants to share. And I was able to finally communicate more clearly around that issue, literally by saying, sometimes I would just like you to share your parent note. And I don't really want to hear all your child and sibling notes.
I'm sorry, Bronson. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I can so relate.
I think both of us feel the same way, but it was like finally we're able to speak the same language and use something that's really meaningful to both of us to understand that it's not like I'm not trying to disrespect you and I don't want to hear you right now, but it's like I only have energy to hear your parent level. Like, okay, I get that. We're good.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh my god.
I would love to hear whenever, however you guys want to share, but like I'm a little jealous of you guys going through this.
Yes.
I think it's
Together.
so great.
Yes.
And to hear like your furthering learnings and how it's affecting you as a couple, that's very exciting to me.
Yes.
Whatever you want to share about that, I'm interested.
I don't want all your abstractions. Just give me the parent level book. Oh my god, that's so good. Let's keep it going. I know there's we've got like 40 some odd people. I want to have that opportunity for people. You don't even have to turn your video on. You can whisper it. Doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to sort of put a voice behind those thoughts. And I feel like what better place than this, where obviously we don't get along with each other.
I just want to say that I observe that my fleeting notes are usually filled with cynicism and doubts and questions, and because I never processed that and went up to the parent level, I would never reframe that in a positive light. But that's something that I'm able to do now with this. That it's very hard writing those fleeting notes, and you feel like, why am I even doing this? But when you get to the top, and you close down, indent everything, hide them, you are able to kind of put it in a positive light, which I think is really great for me.
That's interesting. Settle therapy.
Yeah, I'll toss something in to kind of fill the void. As I was kind of unpacking my fleeting notes, I tend to go in a bunch of different directions, and I kind of started at, as we grow up, we doodle, and it's this act of emptying our brain, which is something that I do as well to get everything out there, and then I can choose what pieces to put back in. But this kind of little piece came to me about being at the beach. I'm sure we've all been to the beach, I'm assuming, or we're aware that the beach exists and there's sand on it. But you always find yourself, or I do, you write something, you doodle something, or if you're with somebody, the only thing you tend to write is that person's name and typically a heart or maybe some other symbol. But it's always with the second stick, because you know as well as I do, the first one you grab, when you try to write something, it always breaks. So it's the second stick, you always get a bigger one. And so the letters always come out kind of weird and bulbous and everything, but still that act of you're channeling some piece of you out into the world, and it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but you're still creating something. So I was in an artsy mood today, but yeah, that kind of came through. And then listening to Deb talk about how sometimes when we're writing, there's something in us that's coming through, and the writing is just this filter that allows us to kind of capture it, because I can't scribble with a big stick on my screen. Well, at least it wouldn't be ideal, but that's it. That's my little piece.
Building on what Joshua just said, when he said doodling, which made me realize that the fleeting notes we're sketching. When Da Vinci sketched an awful lot before he did a masterpiece. And if it's good enough for Da Vinci, it's good enough for me. And so I think by calling it a fleeting note, it takes out the judgment. I don't have to create a masterpiece here. I just have to capture a thought kind of ineptly, kind of illogically, kind of fuzzily, whatever, and we'll turn into a masterpiece someday. That's it.
Can I add, Nikki, in UK, Bo said earlier, permanent notes are like permanent and you can't go back to them, and like they're set and they're defined. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad he didn't tell me that before I wrote them, because if I'd known that before then, I think that fear would have stopped me from writing them. Whereas I think knowing that in Rome you can rewrite, and you know, it's not like you've written it in pen and you've got to cross it out and you can't fit it on the little card anymore. That's what the gift of doing it in Rome allows. It allows for that flexibility, that development of your learning, that iteration, that of your thoughts as you grow and learn and stretch and stuff. So yeah, I completely agree, George.
Did Bo say the permanent notes can't be changed? I missed that.
Tonight, earlier on, he said something like, well, once you've written a permanent, that's it. It's finished. It's done. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't hear that.
Is that what you said, Bo? I didn't get that.
Let me put it like this. It's encapsulating an experience in a moment of your life at this exact point in that. And so is it permanent? Is this moment? Is this moment? Is this moment?
Hmm?
Is this moment? Is this moment?
Timestamp it.
Can't get it back once it's gone. Yeah.
I don't know, unless you give me a compelling reason. I intend to edit the hell out of my permanent notes.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. But I intend to.
You just write another one.
Build on them.
What I really meant was.
That's where we get into relevant notes. That's when we start doing the Vogelzettel. Like I said, we've only gone halfway. Like we're halfway up the mountain. Like you've already gone up the mountain. Now you're just coming back down. But the hard part is getting you to write. The hard part is getting you to think. The hard part is having a voice. The hard part is getting you to go, I'm gonna stand behind what I'm thinking. And this is why I'm just sort of keeping it open right now, just for people that want this opportunity, just to say, like, it's not about having the most articulate, elegant, thoughtful, permanent note. No, it's where you are right now. And it's having the confidence in oneself to go, this is my thought, and I'm going to present this to the world. It's basically like this whole meeting, like what I wanted to get across was like, this is like a Toastmasters class, I guess. It's like, we're just going to teach people how to do public speaking. But
yeah, if I can
have to, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you really kind of struck me with that. They're not the Toastmasters, although Toastmasters is cool. But I think as I kind of viewed it, you know, your fleeting notes are very internal. And as you kind of build up, once you get to that permanent note, that's like, you know, when someone reaches up, like for me, I'm on a little mobile here, you click the mic button, you're like, hey, I'm ready to talk. And you've thought of it, you know, you've internalized it, and you have this idea of what you're getting ready to say, but right up until that click, it's all internal. But once you decide to offer that to the world, I almost feel like, you know, like mine here, if I was talking to you, do not fear writing. The quality and quantity can both be improved. This lack of content, this lack of creation cannot. That's my permanent note. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I could be wrong, but anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to, but you caught me at a moment where I needed to create. So I'm clicking off now.
But I also want to piggyback on that, is that you're not just saying something that's a random idea when you unmute the mic and you go, this is my permanent note. What you're actually doing is you're saying, I thought about this. I wrote about this. I abstracted. I also have an author who I understand what he's saying or she is saying, and this is what I understand from it. But not only that, I have evidence. Here's the source material of this book, of this author that was published on this time. And so it's really that point where it's like, yes, I'm speaking in public. I am declaratively saying something. But at the same time, is it really alone? Is it something that you're doing alone? I don't think so. I think you have so much to fall back on. Where if you need a safety net, if someone questions, okay, well, where did you get that idea from? You can go, oh, right here. The third block down on this third abstraction. Or, oh, well, take a look at the author. Read this book. You'll understand it. Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated that we literally took 2 words. The very first 2 words of this book, by the way, so it is a book club. Yay! The very first 2 words of this book was everybody writes. And I still have not heard 2 people say the exact same permanent note yet. And in my experience, even if that does happen, if you look at their fleeting note summary, if you look at their literature note summary, if you look at their fleeting notes, if you look at their literature notes, everyone has a different opinion of what it could mean. And so this is where I don't understand where people that skip the fleeting notes phase and they just go, I'm going to do a book report. Because then it's not really them, right? But check this out. It's not really them. So if I say something and I go, here's my declarative statement, but I haven't done any work to figure out where I think about this. Here's a book report summary, and then I declare this to the world. And when someone attacks it, it's so much easier just to go, this is what the author said. I'm not involved.
That's what we were taught to do in the 6th grade.
Do it the safe way.
Yeah. Now we got to unlearn it.
This is why it's 42 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were taught to just stay true to the author, you know, don't bring yourself in, just be true to the author. And that's what I find so beautiful about, you know, separating the literature note where you can stay true to the author from the fleeting note where you can just, you know, associate and move with your own thoughts and let your emotions in. I think that's the beauty that you separate a bit the literature note from the fleeting note, because by having a place where you can be true to the author, you then have another place, the playground, for becoming more free and more wild with your association, with your feelings, with whatever triggers you.
I love the way you put that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you know the academic is teaching us to be true to the original author, but it's also teaching us to be unoriginal. So you know, I wrote a chapter for a academic book, and I said something about like word of mouth has been here since Adam and Eve, and the editor called me back and she wanted a reference. Like, you friggin' idiot, you know? Yeah. What is? So I know exactly where she was coming from, you know. And she took the same PhD course as I did, and you know. But if you can't speculate that Adam and Eve originated word of mouth, then I don't think you're anywhere.
We've got another 15 minutes or so before I shut down the meeting, so I'm just going to leave it open to anyone that wants to declare.
You guys better talk up or I'll start doing magic tricks.
I'll say I like Patrick's comment there about the playground. I think looking at fleeting notes like that is a really good, that's a good angle to take on it, because I feel I'm kind of doing that. You know, I half the time I'm not even talking about what I want to talk about. It's just where I'm going. And then I can stack them however I want to. That's a really good one, Patrick. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
I would kind of disagree with what George just said, that academic writing, that they expect us to just regurgitate what other people say. Because I was always told, if you really want to have a really good paper, you have to have original thoughts.
Sure.
But how to get to those thoughts, nobody ever told us.
Yeah.
So it was just
I was just talking about the need, the obsessive need to document.
yeah,
clearly,
that's true. That's
clearly
totally true.
we are encouraged to bring in our own original thoughts, or why are we writing that paper? But you're right. We're not taught, okay, where do these thoughts come from?
Yeah.
How do we connect them? How do we process them?
And until now, they sometimes occurred by magic somehow. I thought it was magic, but no, you can reproduce it every time you want to.
That's what people thought a long time ago, and many people still think that creative thought. Some people are creative, some people are not. No,
Yeah.
people have learned there's a very specific process for creative thought. If you learn that, you're just doing that process. You're not creative, you're not creative, you're just doing a process. And Rome really helps us through the process because you call up a concept you've dumped in there and you get 25 different things you thought about it 25 different times and put it together. That's creative thought. Synthesis.
I want to plant a seed. Imagine you have these notes that you're writing, you're abstracting on, you have the playground. I thought, Patrick, you nailed it on that one. Then you have this sort of declarative statement. And then you go, that's connected to this declarative statement, connected to this declarative statement, connected to this declarative statement. And it's essentially you and your understanding and your thinking. It could be right, it could be wrong, but it's still you at that moment, at that exact moment in time. And George is doing magic trick, I think. And so what would happen if, when I think about creative thinking and original thinking, I go, what is that? And if you could somehow connect, magic trick, if you could connect this idea with this idea, but you don't know what those are yet, and you don't know how they relate, and you don't know when you're going to stumble upon it later, I just think it's very interesting to think, how do these now declarative statements connect, and how can we be surprised? Because a communication partner, I think someone said it last week, it's the ability to be surprised. That's what makes a dialogue partner. That's what makes a communication partner. If I'm not surprised by the notes that I'm putting into it, then it's an archive.
Yeah,
But if I can be
yeah.
surprised, it's essentially where original writing or original thinking comes from. It's when you can have two disparate ideas and you can find a linkage between them, and then because you have evidence to support every one of these ideas, you have all your thinking that arose to crystallize that thought. When you have these two crystallized thoughts that are on disparate branches connecting that you've forgotten about because you wrote 6 months, 2 years ago, it's just an interesting idea. And that's all I'm going to say.
More to come on that, I think.
Because I don't know. I'm going to save it. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, come on.
No.
Yes.
We're patient. We can wait. Except for George.
Some of you are patient.
He's making us, he's stretching us.
Yeah, stretching my
Stretch the gap of what we don't know, so then when it fills in, it will go boom.
Okay, so this is what
I
I'm going
don't
to do.
know. I think it's stretching my patience.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.